Welcome to the Clubhouse on a Saturday night, thanks to 50upclub.com. And now, here's your host with the most, Glenn Wheeler.
Well, thank you very much. Good to have your company on this Saturday night, our first Saturday night back together since last year, as a matter of fact. If my calendar is correct, yes it is. It is our first night back, although we're already into the new year, of course. It's whatever it is, the 3rd or the 4th or something. I hope your new year is going along swimmingly. It's been pretty busy here at the power station all this week. I've started doing my night fill-ins for Ross Greenwood and for Steve Price between 6 and 10 p.m. So we're here every day for the next couple of weeks, and of course tomorrow morning with the travel show. But the Clubhouse on Saturday nights is what we do first up between about 6 and 6:30, thanks to our friends at 50 Up Club. And don't forget, of course, that 50 Up Club, the membership is really climbing massively, as a matter of fact. It's we're well and truly up over the 50,000 members, which is beaut. We haven't had an offer since the car insurance and the electricity deals have been done, but I think that's largely due to the fact that the guys who are running the the deals side of things are taking a break over Christmas and New Year. But you can bet your left leg, as they say in the classics, that when they come back from holidays, it'll all be on again. So if you haven't already joined, if you're not a member yet, make sure you jump on the website and join up. It doesn't cost anything. It's really simple. You just put a few details in there about yourself, and then you are privy to a newsletter, because a newsletter goes out every week, sometimes a couple of times a week, depending upon what's going on. And in that newsletter, they always put the deals as well. So 50upclub.com. If you specifically want information about the electricity deals that are still available for 50 Up Club members, then all you need to do is go to the 50upclub.com website, or you can call Click Energy directly on 1300 085 785, 1300 085 785. First up tonight, I want to talk about, does age really make a difference in a relationship? And it's an interesting little, not a conundrum, although I suppose it can be for some people, but it's certainly a question that often gets asked, and I have a reason for asking it tonight. And I guess particularly for, some of our older listeners who might be in a relationship or a marriage where there is a considerable age difference between the partners. So we'll come to that in just a tick. We're also going to find out about the 3rd annual Hawkesbury Sand Sculpting Competition, which looks absolutely sensational, I've got to say. I'm always in awe of people who can get down on the sand, and you see it often on Australia Day, don't you, on the various beaches around the place. People that just can turn sand into a work of art. Not just sand, anybody that's that creative, I think, I take my hat off to. Those street artists, for example, that you see who work the pavements and create those three-dimensional images. Just mind-blowing how people do that. But we'll have a talk to the Hawkesbury Sand Sculpting mob and find out how you can find out all about that. We're also going to talk about a couple of new bars that have opened around the place that you might be interested in checking out. A chocolate-making course where you make real chocolate, like I'm talking about the real McCoy, like you beautiful chocky, yummo chocolate. We'll find out all about that. And we'll also check in with Craig Gabriel, because the the Apia International at the Sydney Olympic Park International Tennis Centre gets underway tomorrow, and the boys from the Continuous Call team will be out there as well. So if you've got nothing particularly planned for tomorrow, might be just the ticket. Head out to the International Tennis Centre out there at Homebush and watch the opening day of the Apia International. Righto, so that's a bit of an overview of what's happening tonight. Hope you can stick with us. Of course, we're here right now from 6 till midnight, and Janelle Bloom will join us after 7 o'clock, and then from 8 till midnight we run amok with Wheeler. And I'd love to get your input on this one, because, does age make a difference? It's a great question, and it's one that gets asked, I think, at various ages and stages in life. In my situation, I've actually gone against the grain somewhat, because we've been married 32 years, and my wife is actually older than me, believe it or not. When I say believe it or not, because a lot of blokes end up, being a couple of years older than their wife. But my wife is actually, Michelle's only, she's not much older. I mean, she's only about maybe 6 or 8 months or something like that older than me. But typically, the routine is that blokes prefer the company of younger women, whilst women prefer men who are older. And this is in keeping pretty much around the world, according to a number of studies that have been done. Women are drawn, in the main, to older men since they typically have greater resources. That's what research proves or says. Men are attracted to women who advertise signs of, fertility, youth. All right? If they look young and beautiful, that's what attracts the blokes. And this phenomenon, if you want to call it that, of blokes preferring younger women and vice versa, women preferring older blokes, is technically known as the age differential effect. And it's been well documented. There's been a number of classic studies on human mating done since 1989. And in one particular study, 37 cultures across 6 continents were surveyed and found that in every culture in question, men preferred to marry younger women. Now, typically, 2.66 years younger on average. All right, so let's call it 2.5 years, or let's say 2.5 to 3 years younger on average. And women preferred to marry men, older blokes, who were 3.5 years older than them. So that was typically. So the blokes are looking for a woman who's about 2.5 years younger. The women apparently are looking for a bloke that's about 3.5 years younger, which is interesting. In a 1993 study, which analysed over 1,000 personal ads, blokes and women looking for partners, etc., researchers found that women typically sought older men and men typically sought younger women. And then the same thing was done in 1993. They surveyed a huge group across America. Same story again. In 2001, researchers asked Dutch men and women between the ages of 20 and 60 about their age preferences for various types of situations, ranging from companionship right through to the whole, intimate relationship side of things. And they found that men, once again, preferred younger partners. And it was across the board. So I just want to put the question out there, is age really an issue at the end of the day? And you can't help but think of some of the great exponents, if you like, of blokes particularly who have gone for younger women. Rupert Murdoch, classic case in point. Rupert Murdoch, younger woman. What's his name, the doctor with, his name escapes me, with his younger... the American... it's coming to me. I'm doing sign language here. You know who I'm trying to say, Jerome? Yes, the flamboyant doctor that has got the young wife with the huge career path in television, a few other things. Edelson, thank you. Jeffrey Edelson, exactly right. Same story again, because Jeffrey Edelson's an older guy and his partner is, considerably younger. Look, there are many examples of that across the board, but I'd love to hear from anybody in particular who has, maybe survived a long relationship in an extraordinary age gap scenario. Maybe 10, 20, 30 years? That seems like a very long time, doesn't it? And does age really make a difference at the end of the day? And you might like to relate it even to, your kids, sons and daughters. If they were to come home, if their son comes home with a girl who's particularly young, does that send a shiver down your spine because you think, no, that's not right. You should be marrying someone about your same age. So we've got somebody who's just emailed us here now saying that they have an uncle with a wife who's 30 years younger. Huge gap, isn't it? I have a friend at the moment who has a partner who's considerably younger, and I must say in the beginning, when he first started courting her after a failed marriage, unfortunately, it got all the blokes talking, naturally, because all the blokes say, lucky bugger, it's fantastic. Like, he's in his 50s, she's about half his age, and everyone's saying, oh, this is unbelievable. You're doing well here, champion. Of course, the wives were all saying, it's disgraceful. And the shine wore off after he's now a father again. And I suppose, when I say the shine wore off, because you've got to go back to parenting and bring up a baby and all that sort of thing at an older age in life. So I guess, with the good comes the bad. But I'd like to hear from you. 131873 is the number. 2gb.com if you want to get to us on the net. And we'll take some calls and just have a little bit of a chat about it tonight before we move on to other things. Hi, Sade. Sade, you there? Sade.
Yes.
Yes, it's you. Speak to me.
It's me. That's me.
Tell me your story.
Me and my husband have been married for 6 years now.
Yep.
Together for almost 9.
Yeah.
And I am 27 years old. He is 46.
27, 46, so 13 years.
No, it's actually, it's just over 18.
Oh, because you were together for another 5 or 6 years before that.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? And
Yeah, we actually have 2 small children together, we do, so relating to what you were saying about him going back to parenting again.
Did he have kids from a previous marriage?
He does have one daughter to a previous relationship, yes.
So she is how old?
She is 11 years old.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes, in that situation where you've got the stepfather arrangement, it's quite interesting because when the stepfather ends up with a younger partner, his daughter from the previous marriage can be, a similar age to her new stepmother.
Yes.
Which I guess could be quite, which I guess could be quite interesting. Do you find, look, you're still quite young. I mean, your husband's very young too, so you probably don't find too many significant differences in terms of the age group.
No, not really. To be honest with you, we don't. Our parents are quite close in age, so his parents had him early, mine were a bit later, and so we were raised the same way. So we don't really find, we do have the odd bicker where.
Tell me this:
they come into it. Yeah.
Do you get down and dirty and nasty and say, you silly old fart and things like that?
No. I do crack a joke about that, though.
Do you?
My girlfriends think it's quite funny to maybe crack a joke about it every now and then, but that's about it, mate.
Is it something? And I want to ask you this question: is it something that it's something that's in you? It's already a part of your DNA that you like the older bloke?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, I've always liked an older man. Yeah, even as a teenage girl, mate. Yeah.
It's just funny how that happens, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
We're pre-wired to certain things. Have you also, between the two of you, when you sit down to have a bevy or a cup of tea or whatever, do you sometimes look down the timeline and think about what it's going to be like in another 20 or 30 years' time?
We do, yeah, we do. We realise, obviously, if all goes well, he's going to pass away a long time before me, so we have things like, life insurance put into place and stuff like that.
Good
so
stuff.
If anything goes wrong while our children are too young, then, we're all looked after, yeah.
Good stuff. Hey, thanks for sharing your story, because it's just an interesting insight to hear from someone like yourself who's, actually living through it and saying, well, so far so good, having a good time.
Yeah.
Good on you.
I think, personally, if it works for everybody, then you just do what works for everyone, yeah.
Good on you. Thanks, Sade.
All right, thank you.
Bye-bye. Yeah, interesting. 131873 if you'd like to join us. Alicia, hi there.
How are you?
I'm good.
And I must say, I bought Bertolli this weekend.
Ah, did you? Good girl.
I did.
De Bortley, of course, a great winemaker, and it's a beautiful drop, and you'll enjoy every bit of it.
Right. Now I have to really throw a spanner in the works.
Yes.
I come from the other side.
Okay.
I was involved, in an Adam and Eve situation.
Oh.
I was older, and he was 20 years younger.
Wow. So you were a bit of a cougar.
Well, no.
You were ahead of your...
It didn't exist in those
I was going to say, you're ahead of your time. You were a cougar ahead of your time.
Well, I was healthy and happy and active, but it all fell apart when he wanted to take me home to meet his mother.
Oh, no.
Who was the same age as me.
Oh, no.
And I would have to deny her having any grandchildren.
Oh, no. How did she react?
Not very happily.
No. He
But
hadn't...
the relationship ended, sadly.
What a shame. All because he didn't have a very happy mum. Was it mum that stopped? Was it his love for his mother as opposed to his love for you that terminated the deal?
Didn't want to put him under pressure because I felt that since I was so much older, with maybe a little bit wiser, he deserved children.
How many years difference?
Well, I was 55.
Yeah.
And he was 25.
Wow. Okay, 30 years. That's a significant difference. That's a significant difference. And I can imagine Mum. You can just imagine the look on Mum's face when he says, "I've I've got a new girlfriend and I'm going to bring her home. I want you to meet her. Great.
No, I said to him, no, darling, I can't do that. We have to cut off. I cut the relationship. It was a no-go, no-win.
Oh, okay. So you actually didn't get to the dinner table?
Oh, God, could I look her in the face?
No, I don't think so. I think you did the right thing, Alicia. Thank you for sharing your story nonetheless. 131873, 30 years. See, that's interesting. That is, Alicia was a cougar ahead of her time. Any other cougars out there that want to share a story? Any blokes that are in their 60s and 70s that have just recently married a 20-year-old? It's just curious. We're merely being, onlookers here and sort of looking at what goes on in the world and putting it out there to say, well, you don't always have to be the same age to have a formidable relationship and to be compatible. Sometimes it works very, very well the other way around. Now, Alicia mentioned that she has bought some De Bortley this weekend, and I'm very delighted that she has, because they are one of our sponsors on a Saturday night, and they make a fabulous product. De Bortley wines, a red, a white, a bubbly, a nice sticky, the Noble One, beautiful. Look, whatever you're doing this weekend, if you're going to sit down and enjoy a bevy of some sort, make it a De Bortley. They're an Australian success story since 1928, third-generation winemaker. They've won a stack of awards, and it's not hard to see why when you try their wine. It's fabulous. Take all the guesswork out of buying wine. When you go into the bottle shop, you're surrounded by a zillion different bottles with all sorts of different labels. Just head for the one that says De Bortley. Good old 50 Up Club. 50upclub.com. Make sure you join up. And if you're 50 up and you've got a 20 up, I'd like to know. Interesting, isn't it? You know, if you were in your 50s, I've often wondered about someone like Rupert Murdoch, for example, because Rupert Murdoch is a interesting case in point, because there he's got all that money, and of course the marriage to Wendy Deng fell apart, and she would have walked away with $1 gazillion, obviously. And I'm just wondering, does he then turn around and find another young partner, or does he call it quits and say, look, at my stage in life, that's enough, I'm not going to go again? Interesting stuff. So, if you have a story to share, as a couple of our callers have, I'd love to hear from you, 131873. In this hour on Saturday nights, we'd like to tell you about some things that are happening around town, and particularly new and exciting places to go and have a feed or a glass of wine or whatever it might be. And one that I discovered during the week was the Boathouse at Mossman, or Balmoral, in fact, I think to be more correct, Balmoral Boathouse. Probably some of you that live over on the Northern Beaches area probably know all about the Boathouse, but beautiful. It is in Mossman itself, and a very trendy boathouse cafe. Lots of flowers and all that sort of stuff. Apparently, previously it used to just be, some sort of a hole-in-the-wall little shop that had all sorts of little just bits and pieces and all that sort of caper, bit of coffee and a few things. But now they've turned into this magnificent, it's like a florist, it's a cafe, it's a whole lot of beautiful things, handmade products, but a great place to go for a feed or a cup of coffee. Blackboard menu. And the flowers are delightful. They've got a magnificent deck and beautiful views. So you sit at the table there and you're out in the sunshine under an umbrella, and the food is as good as the views, to be perfectly honest. I don't know these guys. I actually tried to get them. I rang them this afternoon to see if we could get them on to have a bit of a chat, because it really is quite spectacular, and it's just recently been refurbished. But if you're looking for somewhere to go and have a feed, or have a nice coffee on a nice day and just take in the pleasantness of that Balmoral area there, you could do a lot worse than the Balmoral Boathouse Cafe. It's open every day from 7:30 till 4. They do brekkie, apparently, which I'm told is absolutely out of this world, and lunch from 12 o'clock. You'll find them at number 2, the Esplanade Balmoral Beach. Number 2, the Esplanade Balmoral Beach at Mossman. Now, for the third year in a row, the the Hawkesbury International Sand Sculpting Championships are on. And it's held at the foot of the Blue Mountains in the historic town of Windsor. And that's where they have these sand sculpting championships, and they do it for 4 days. And just amazing. It's sand sculptors from countries around the world who come in and compete. And when you see sand sculpting done on that level, it's just mind-blowing. I just think it's incredible that people can be so talented and so creative. Sharon Redmond is one of the directors of the Hawkesbury Sand Sculpting Championship, and she joins us on the line to tell us more about it. Hi, Sharon. You there, Sharon?
Yep, I'm here. Hello.
Hi there, gotcha.
Hi, good evening.
Yeah, no, thanks for your time. It's these people are incredibly talented. Do they do this, do many of these sand sculptors actually do this in other parts of the country or around the world? Is there such a thing as a professional sand sculptor?
There certainly is, and
wow.
We pay their wages. You're aware about how professional these guys are. No, look, Sandstorm Events brings into Australia every year about 15 international sculptors, and we have to book them a good 6 to 7 months in advance, or offer them the opportunity, in the case of the Hawkesbury International, to actually compete, because their sculpting calendar is booked all year round. And not only do they sculpt sand, but a lot of them, particularly the Russian sculptors and the sculptors from the Netherlands, also carve sand and ice. So when they're not working in the summer season in Europe or in America, they're actually doing winter ice sculpting and big winter events. So they're very, very talented and very, very much thought over. There's only around about 120 professional sand sculptors in the world.
Gosh.
And for the Hawkesbury this year, we had 12 spots available, and we had one position for an Australian and the other 11 for internationals.
Wow.
And we had so many people, so many internationals applying to participate, and we had probably, of the 11 carving, 8 of them were previous world champions or current European champions, and the calibre of carving at the Hawkesbury this year in Windsor has just been remarkable. We're absolutely delighted with the results.
So only one Aussie out of the other 11 international sculptors.
Yes.
And yet I'm imagining that, like, he? I'm guessing it's a he, is
yes,
it?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
He's a very lucky boy, because I'm imagining that there would have been a stack of other Aussie sculptors that would have loved to have been involved, but just couldn't get in.
Yeah, look, there was a whole. We've got probably in Australia over the last 8 years we've been able to nurture professional sand sculpting, and when I first started doing sand sculpting on a event basis 10 years ago, we had maybe 2 or 3 sand sculptors in Australia that could carve at a professional level. We've now got 12. And the sculptor who participated this year was actually from the Blue Mountains, and he was the winner from last year's event. He's an amazingly talented sand sculptor, has been sculpting, he's in his 60s, and he's been sand sculpting now for 25, 30 years. He's the best sand sculptor in Australia, and I couldn't believe it this year when the judges made the announcement. He won again, so back to back. So It just shows you the calibre of sand sculpting in Australia, because at Sandstorm Events we run events in Victoria, South Australia, in Queensland, and our international championships in Windsor. We're now able to give the Australian sand sculptors regular work, so they actually are working all year round, which means that their abilities are improving constantly, and so now that they can compete and beat. I mean, I was blown away with what Gino produced this year. He produced a piece called The Portal. It's absolutely amazing.
So the theme this year was The Lost World.
Yes, The Lost World, and that in itself was really interesting, because we give the sculptors a theme. When I set the theme, I had this in my head. I had this imagination of lots and lots of dinosaurs, and probably 2/3 of the pile are dinosaurs and looking fantastic. But some of the other sculptors interpreted the Lost theme in a different way, and we've or the Lost World in a different way, and we've got some sort of interesting interpretations of the theme there, which is really good for people to go through and to sort of see how the sculptors have interpreted the theme themselves.
Tell me a little bit about the sculptors and you guys as well. Like, getting into something like sand sculpting as a championship, an international championship, is odd in itself. I mean, well, I say that in the nicest possible way, Sharon. But It's like, you wouldn't be at school going through the list of potential occupations or career paths and going, butcher, doctor, lawyer, policeman, sand sculptor. That's what I want to be.
No.
So what happens? Is it because of a young, when you're a kid, you were sitting on the beach every day building sandcastles and couldn't quite get it right, or what?
No, look, I don't actually sculpt myself. I own Sandstorm Events, which is the company that does we probably do 98% of sand sculpting work in Australia. And when I started this 10 years ago, how I got into it, it's really quite strange. I saw a sand sculpture at Rye Beach, down at Rye, one sand sculpture, and I used to do, at that particular time I was event managing, and I had never ever come across anything that I stood in front of it and was amazed with how someone had actually created this. And around that sand sculpture there were grandparents, there were adults, and there were children, and every single age group drew something out of the sand sculpture and was able to connect with the sand sculpture.
Wow.
And I just loved it. So I started to do a little bit of research and discovered that, there were professional sculptors, and I took myself off to a couple of the competitions overseas to meet some sculptors.
Extraordinary.
And just thought it would be wonderful to be able to share this with the Australian public. And so...
Why Windsor?
Why Windsor? Well, we were looking for somewhere to place the international championships, and I wanted...
But Windsor's a beautiful place. Don't get me wrong. We've got listeners in Windsor now probably saying, hang on, nothing wrong with Windsor. Windsor's a beautiful place, but to go and dump tons and tons of sand, how much sand do you dump there?
There's 300 tonne of sand in Windsor at the moment that's been dumped and carved and or hauled in trucks and dogs. I think I chose Windsor because I wanted an area that was interested in working with us to drive tourism into the region. It had a really, really lovely feel about it. The township itself is very historic and really beautiful to go wandering through. The council were looking for some sort of activity that would help promote the area, and they wanted something that was a bit artistic and something that maybe fitted in with the whole sense of the area and the town. And they've embraced it. And as I said, it's the third year that they've hosted it. We've just signed an agreement with the council that will be there for the next 5 years. So it's certainly bedding in to be the home of the International Championship. Yep. We've found an enormous amount of support from local businesses, from places like the Richmond Club and other community groups. We've aligned with an organisation locally called the Heart of the Hawkesbury, and their charter is to drive tourism into the region and promote the region positively. And look, it's great, and it's only a 45-minute drive from the heart of Sydney. And
now, the thing is, you can go out there and have a look at these award-winning sculptures.
Yes.
And check them all out. You can also do a little bit of playing around, from what I gather, in the giant sandpit and things.
Yeah, we've actually engaged two of the international sand sculptors to be on site until the event is finished on the 26th of January. Yep. So we have Baldrick Buckle from the UK. Uh-huh. He's there daily doing sand sculpting demonstrations. And we have Yves Gerards, and he's from the Netherlands, and he's there daily doing sand sculpting workshops with children.
So any budding sand sculptors that might be listening now that would like to go and get a little bit of sand on their hands can get out there and have a play.
Definitely, and they can also watch Yves do speed carving. So he actually twice a day will do a speed carving demonstration, and which is a lot of fun. And then kids can do sand art, they can do sand bottles, they can play in our giant sand pit. There's a fantastic activity sheet through the township of Windsor that they can do. So there's lots to do, and they can have a picnic in the area, or they can visit the CWA ladies and have a cup of coffee and some scones. And
beautiful.
Cake.
Worth it already, Sharon.
Yes.
Good on you. Listen, thank you for telling us all about that. Interesting stuff indeed. Very unusual, but very interesting, and it's fascinating to think that we've got an international sand sculpting championship taking place here in Windsor at the foot of the Blue Mountains, and not the first time, the third time you've done it. Well done.
Yes. Oh, look, thank you very much, and we really hope that some of your listeners are interested in heading out and having a look at the sculptures between now and when we bulldoze them on the 26th of January.
Lovely stuff.
Lovely for them to see it.
Well done. Good on you. Thanks for talking to us, Sharon Edmund there. And the location, if you want to head out there, is Macquarie Park at Windsor. And Macquarie Park is on the corner of George Street and Hawkesbury Valley Way at Windsor, and it is open from 10 a.m. in the morning until 7 p.m. at night daily, right through until, as Sharon says, the 26th of January, when all those beautiful creations will just become more buckets of sand.
Wild mouse. These days you can visit the superbly restored fun park to catch a Park. The Luna Park is a people's park where you can throw a kids' party, host your dream wedding or stage a garden